Pride is outside, staring at the sky, and vows to do everything in her power to serve the country and its people over the next 10 years. Meanwhile, Stale is training in the garden, but becomes embarrassed when he hears talk about marrying Pride. It's revealed that marrying adopted siblings is common, but this causes Stale to lose focus. The girls rush over and Tiara treats his wounds. We learn that in the game, Stale actually develops feelings for her, making Pride wonder if that will happen in this reality. She reflects on how much her world has already changed and decides to test something. She fights against an instructor and easily defeats him, realizing she has cheat abilities that make her the final boss. It's the first time she has ever picked up a sword, and she masters self-defense by just watching. Stale is in awe of her strength, thinking he won't be needed. However, Pride reassures him not to be discouraged, believing he will one day become stronger than her. Stale resumes his training, but Pride, after this test, thinks her destiny might still follow the game's story. Nonetheless, she hopes to spend her days alongside Stale and Tyra. Pride goes to observe the Royal Knights. She is greeted by Vice Captain Clark and wonders why the captain isn't present. She is informed that the captain was called away for a joint military exercise with a neighboring country. Stale thinks it's discourteous for the captain not to be around for Pride's first observation, but Pride is very understanding, expressing confidence that the knights will excel even in the captain's absence. As she watches the knights train, she is thoroughly impressed by their skills, but can't help but think about how her character used them for her own ends in the game. At that moment, a knight rushes over, informing Clark that the captain's group was attacked on their way to the neighboring country. Clark wants to get Pride to safety first, but she insists on overseeing the operation. They head to the conference room, where Captain Rodri is reporting the situation. Stale notes that they're able to communicate thanks to the ability of one of the knights. Rodri is surrounded but reports that there haven't been any casualties yet. Clark tells him that reinforcements are on the way, but they are still 30 minutes out. Rodri isn't sure they can hold out that long as they are already running low on ammunition. Pride reveals that Stale can teleport anything around his body weight as long as he has the coordinates. She instructs them to prepare supplies to send. Stale teleports the supplies, boosting Rodri's men's morale. The captain is amazed that Stale kept such an ability hidden, and one of the knights suggests using it to drop bombs on their enemies. Rodri immediately reprimands him for being disrespectful. Stale says he doesn't mind if Pride orders it, but she tells him never to do such a thing. Clark apologizes for his man's suggestion, and Pride reminds everyone to keep Stale's ability a secret, emphasizing that she doesn't want Stale to be used for war, but rather to use his ability for himself and to protect what he values. A soldier reports that the reinforcements are 10 minutes away. Clark orders half of them to assist Rodri, while the other half apprehend the enemy on the cliff top. However, Rodri warns them about the unstable ground in the area. This triggers a memory for Pride from the game, and she suddenly warns them not to go to the cliff top, claiming she had a premonition that it will crumble. She uses her authority as the crown princess to order everyone to retreat. The men rush off to relay the message. Meanwhile, Rodri is stuck near the cliff with his leg trapped by a fallen boulder. He tries to cut off his own leg, but fails due to his slash nullification ability, which makes him immune to damage from swords. Believing it's the end, Rodri is suddenly confronted by his son, who tells him he's a terrible father but must survive for his mother's sake. Surrounded by enemies, Rodri prepares to make a stand. Pride thinks there's nothing she can do, but notices a particular man among the enemies. The enemies rush at him, and he fights them off, but they soon realize guns work on him and start shooting. His son falls to his knees, begging for someone to save him. Pride reassures him, saying she will protect everyone in her country. She then tells Stale to teleport her to the battlefield. Though he thinks it's too dangerous, she convinces him to trust her and he teleports her away. As the enemy is about to finish off Rodri, they suddenly get shot at. Pride makes her entrance, jumping down the cliff and telling them to prepare themselves. Rodri warns her to get away, but Pride asserts that it's her duty to protect her citizens as she rushes at the enemy. She starts taking them out, and Rodri is stunned that she's just an 11-year-old girl. When 3 men charge at her, she leaps over their attack, taking them all out. As the men try to retreat, she grabs a gun and shoots at them, making them think she's a monster. The cliff starts to crumble, but Pride catches the man she noticed earlier. She tells Rodri to grab onto the man, saying they'll all die if he doesn't use his ability. The cliff is about to crush them. A scene from the game flashes, where Rodri's son watches as his father is killed. Clark orders the knights to look for survivors while mourning Rodri's death. In the game, Pride mocks the fallen captain, calling his death pathetic. Clark defends Rodri, saying he sacrificed his life to help others escape. But Pride dismisses the casualties, saying she can always recruit new knights and appoints Clark as the new captain. Rodri's son, knowing Pride had foreseen the tragedy but allowed everyone to die, becomes angry and vows revenge for his father. He decides to become a knight like his father, cutting his hair and determined to bring Pride to justice. Back in the real world, the cliff falls on Pride and Rodri, causing everyone to fear the worst. But a strange rock formation catches their attention. As it crumbles, the other knights arrive, and both Pride and Rodri emerge alive. The knights are overjoyed to see their captain has survived. Pride orders them to put the enemy in custody before attending to Rodri's injuries. The knights wonder who she is, and Rodri informs them that she is the princess, shocking everyone. In the conference room, they receive a report stating there are 0 casualties, which brings happiness to everyone. Stale realizes he has just sent Pride to the battlefield, unable to do anything to protect her. Rodri wants her to return to the castle immediately, informing her that the vanguard has arrived to escort her back. He tells her that there are many things he would like to discuss with her and asks her to schedule a meeting. Back at the castle, Pride meets with the knights. She invites them to speak their minds and thanks them for keeping her involvement a secret. Rodri wonders how she knew their enemy was a special ability user, and she claims it was due to her precognition ability, though it was actually because of her game knowledge. Rodri questions why she joined the fight alone, saying she should have alerted the other knights first. Pride explains that they wouldn't have made it in time, and that, due to the limitations of Stale's ability, she was the only one who could rush to the scene. Rodri becomes upset, saying she shouldn't have entered the battlefield even if no one else could have saved him. He insists that she should have informed the knights and left everything to them. Pride counters by explaining what could have happened if she hadn't interfered. Rodri interrupts her, reminding her that they are knights who gladly give their lives for the country. He tells her that her actions almost disgraced the way of the knights and could have brought despair upon the country if she had died. Pride realizes he has a good point, understanding that he was seeking an honorable death. However, she thinks about Rodri's son, knowing he would have been devastated if his father had died. Rodri continues to lecture her about the value of her life, saying she is far more valuable than they are and should not risk her life for them. Pride demands silence, admitting that Rodri speaks the truth and that her actions cause some trouble. But she also points out that she didn't just save him, she also saved the knights who will soon be under his leadership. She emphasizes that those knights will save more people in the future because it is their duty to protect the populace directly. She lectures the knights on the value of their lives, saying many people will die if there are no knights to protect them. She implores them to forget about dying an honorable death and to focus on saving their countrymen instead. Pride tells Rodri that he doesn't understand the value of his own life and speaks about the people who devote their hearts to him. She asserts that even if he were just a mere soldier, she would have done the same thing. Pride wants to save people whenever she can, reminding them of her position as the first princess. She declares that she lives for the sake of the people and will not allow any needless deaths. However, she acknowledges that her actions have caused the knights some trouble and sincerely apologizes for this. Clark speaks up, saying he doesn't approve of the royal family getting involved in the incident, but he thanks Pride for saving the knights. He bows before her and expresses his gratitude for saving Rodri, knowing that without her intervention, he would have died. The other knights join Clark in thanking Pride for saving their captain. Rodri's son, Arthur, steps forward and thanks her for saving his father. Arthur reveals that he is a special ability user but has always thought his ability was insignificant, leading him to give up on becoming a knight. However, seeing his father's life on the line made him regret not being able to do anything. With tears in his eyes, he tells Pride that he wants to train harder and asks if he can become a knight like his father. Pride assures him that he can do it, saying he has her support because of his kindness and desire to improve. She encourages him to protect everyone once he becomes a knight. Arthur, holding her hands, promises to protect her with his life. Pride asks for his name, and he introduces himself as Arthur Ford. She is surprised, realizing that he is actually a love interest in the game. She recalls that Arthur becomes the captain of the knights and is the only one with the sword skills to overpower her character. Pride tells Arthur that she has foreseen his future and knows he will become an honorable knight. However, aware of her character's potential for evil, she orders him to kill her if she ever becomes an enemy of the country. Rodri suddenly bursts into tears, thanking Pride for saving his life. He admits that he is overjoyed to see everyone again and is happy to hear his son declare his intention to become a knight, saying he is glad to be alive. Pride is also happy that Rodri survived. Arthur, meanwhile, contemplates Pride's words. He declares that he wants to protect her even if the whole world turns against her, determined to ensure she doesn't go down the wrong path. Arthur resolves to cut down anyone who stands in her way, and to save her if she begins to falter.